So this new recipe that I'm going to be making for you originated from southern China, is typically popular around New Year and also various festivities. You can see it being produced in places like Taiwan and then also like Malaysia and South Asia as well. So it's quite popular there. And it uses this mold that essentially replicates a turtle. So a turtle is a really lucky type of animal because it lives really long, and so it's quite kind of prosperous that way. And this is very similar to kind of like a red mochi because it is rice based and it is colored with the red yeast. Usually what you put in this, you can really put whatever, but are things like red bean paste. And typically you would roast the red bean paste for a little bit until it got quite hard, because in Taiwan anyways, what these would be used for are like religious ceremonies to lay out for the gods. And so you needed to keep it dry so that it didn't go bad. But you can fill it with whatever. We can do sesame, we can do peanuts as well. And we are going to steam it on some banana leaves. So it's going to be extra fragrant and then extra pretty as well. So a lot of history behind this one. Hopefully you all enjoy. If you need to find these molds, I mean, you can either use a mooncake mold, or if I find this, I'm gonna just put the link down below so that you can find these special Kueh molds, okay? So I debated on whether to make rice flour with you all, and I thought, okay, this is gonna be a traditional recipe, let's just go for it. So we have two different rices, as you saw, and that will just create a heartier type of mochi. It's gonna be a little bit harder, not as soft as your typical one. And so to start off with the rice flour, you just have to soak the rice for a couple of hours because that makes it easier to grind. And then I'm just going to blend it with right around 300 milliliters of water. You'll see that the actual amount of water doesn't matter too much, as we'll be straining everything out. But you want to make sure to blend this for a minute, 2 minutes. Just make sure that everything is nicely ground. What I realized was that my nut milk bag wasn't actually fine enough, and so a lot of the rice actually went through. And so I opted to go with a linen cloth, and that seemed to work better. It held more of the rice in. So I just let this go for a couple of hours until it just dries up, a lot of the water comes out, and you'll see that we end up with rice flour. I know some of you are saying this looks more like cheese than it does rice flour, but actually after you dry it, it becomes the rice flour that we know. And by soaking it and grinding it like this, you're going to get a finer grind of rice flour, not to mention you're getting rid of some of the arsenic that's naturally in rice. So right now, the mix is a bit dry, but what you want to do is to take a chunk of that and just put it in some boiling water. You want to cook it off. And this becomes kind of your starchy, gluey rice starter that will make your rice dough easier to handle later. Okay, so just put that off to the side. And right now, I'm just going to add a natural red coloring, and that is the red yeast that we've used before. I'll put the link down below, but I just put it into a blender and I ground it up. And red yeast is a traditional coloring ingredient. What I haven't shown is I've been sprinkling just a little bit of water in at a time just to get the mix going, because just the hydrated rice flour alone was a little too crumbly, it was a little too dry. And then I realized I didn't add that rice starter yet, so we're gonna add that in and see. So because rice flour doesn't have gluten in it, that rice starter is essentially going to act like the thing that's binding this dough together. For anybody that does gluten-free baking, it will act very much as your psyllium husk or, that binder ingredient. I should also mention that this dough traditionally has a little bit of oil in it, but I'm going to be brushing the mochi later, so I just didn't really add the oil in here. So, like I had mentioned, there are many different kinds of fillings for this one. I'm going to go with a peanut one that I will sweeten with a little bit of sugar, but you can certainly go with red bean. You can go with, really whatever filling you want. So now I'm going to cut out some of the banana leaves that will go on the bottom of the rice cakes. So banana leaves, nature's natural, parchment that also emits a lot of really good fragrance as well. If you don't have banana leaves, obviously just use parchment paper, and I'm just cutting it out a little bit wider than my actual rice cakes will be. So I'm just dividing up the dough right now into about 35-gram balls, but it really depends on how big or small your mold is. So initially, maybe just put some dough into the mold and then find out, around how much dough you would need, measure that out, and then make sure that all of the balls are similar. So I made right around 12 here, and filling a loose peanut filling is a lot harder than filling red bean paste because it moves around a lot. So initially you might want to start off with a smaller amount. But the action that I'm doing is really less harsh. It's more trying to compact the rice flour in. And if you roll it too much and you get a little too aggressive with it, it has a tendency to just pop open and rip open. So just, be careful about that. And then for my wooden mold, I've opted to put oil on it instead of just dusting it with rice flour. I found that it creates a cleaner look to all of the indents and all of the stenciling that's done. So now kind of gently does it. Just gently press it in, make sure that it gets all of those marks, and then you do have to tap it out. That is the nature of these wooden molds. They look perfect, exactly like tortoise shells. So now what you want to do is steam them on medium heat for right around 12 to 15 minutes. And what I found is if your heat is too high, there's too much steam, it kind of makes them melt. So in order to keep all of those indentations, you don't want the heat to be too high. You just want to steam them kind of low and slow. And then when they're done, they turn a deeper red color. It's great. And you can eat these right away. You can leave them out and then re-steam them again as well. So yeah, they stretch exactly like mochi. Because we put in some of the short grain rice flour though, the dough is a little bit hardier. It's a little bit hardier than the mochi dough, but a really nice filling. Everything looks really pretty. Took a while to make, but it is a special type of snack. So I hope you all enjoy, and maybe you'll try making it, mold or not.